Prep. Okay, we can call the meeting to order at 6:01, the special Board of Ed meeting on June 5th in our central conference room. I'm raised to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Christopher, Valerie, Erica, Kathy. And we have
Megan and Sarah virtually attending.
Okay. Good evening, ladies. Hope they can hear us.
Hello, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining. We have a quorum. Okay.
Also present.
Our guests, yes. Do we have any citizens comment with our guests?
We had the Board of Selectmen met today to do our budget, and we came up with some stuff and some dates, so if you want to be updated. Adam was actually at our meeting too.
Yes.
So we know all our budgets failed. So the finance director and I started yesterday to go through everything. And Adam had asked how much the board was going to recommend for the school to cut. Because we don't have, I think we're the only town around here that does not have a board of finance. And towns with a board of finance, they're the ones that like tell both the board, they do the government budget and the board of ed budget, and would tell like in an instance like this, they would tell both boards how much to cut. Since we don't have a board of finance, that falls to the board of selectmen to act like the board of finance. So that's why we can tell the board what to cut. We recommended to Adam to cut 50 grand. And we cut as much as we could by the board cutting the 50 grand, it brings us to the same amount. And it brings us both to about an increase of $94,000 to $99,000 around there. And we figured out at the Board of Selectmen with all of our cuts that we made, that if we do in the past, what would happen if there was a high mill rate affected, the Board of Selectmen would recommend to appropriate money from the general fund to offset the increase to keep the tax flat for the budgets. So what we did was for our budget, we cut, we had proposed staff in the budget for the rec department, for the library, and we cut some salaries, and we cut the proposed weekend day staff for the fire department. We know that's a need, but we also know that we have to work out a plan for the fire department because it's going to be more than weekend day staff that they're going to need. It's getting to the point where there's no volunteers and even night calls, like, because the day staff's from 6 in the morning to 6 or 4 in the day. So we're going to need extended staff. So we're going to recommend that we have a committee formed between residents and fire department to look at our options for the fire department, because we need a solution, and it's going to be costly, whatever our solutions are, whether it's doing a separate fire tax, whether to pay for more fire department staff, whether it's it comes out of the government budget, whether we regionalize fire districts, because we do have in the plans for addition to the firehouse, because we don't have bunk rooms at the current firehouse. And eventually, we know we're gonna have to move. There's no volunteers coming, and it's not just Voluntown, it's all over. So there has to be a study. Residents have to be involved so they can understand that this is something that is gonna affect us, and they need to be involved in coming up with research and for what we can do for solutions. And we didn't want to cut the senior van because that is a need, and we are going to lose the senior van. They're going to take it back if we don't get it going, and we need the money proposed in the budget to actually get it going. And the issue with that is we do have money in the budget for senior transportation. We currently have a dial-a-ride program that we contract out for. And our need for services was so high this past budget year that we didn't have enough money to transition to the senior van because it was all being used up for the dial-a-ride. So we didn't plan the transition very well, and we didn't expect the increase in usage to affect our transition. So the need has grown there. So we didn't cut that. We cut what I mentioned. So, and we cut from the capital projects plan, the $50,000 towards the ambulance and the money for the fire alarm system. But this doesn't mean these are things that we need done over time. So that doesn't mean we can't put money towards them next year, or if anything, God forbid, happens and we need the money for it, we can figure it out.
Right.
We're also going to be looking for, I'm going to reach out to DEMIS and our state reps and see if there are grants for a fire alarm system. And we're going to start working to see what we have available for that. So we took those costs out, and that's some of the money that'll be rolled in to offset the increase. So we're anticipating the mill rate to be, with everything we worked out, the mill rate will be 20.72. So it's flat. It's a flat budget increase, so no budget increase. Because of it being a reval year, some people might still have an increase in their taxes because their property changed. That would happen a reval year regardless of if the budget went up at all. But the difference will be in their car taxes, because the car tax is going from 29 to 20, and also the valuations of the cars are going down. So people are going to see, depending on your car, you could see a huge decrease in your car tax. So
The car tax going down versus the property tax. Is that a state? I think you talked
That's
about
the
it at the
state.
meeting. That's a state
The
thing, so
state,
that's
yeah.
not something that we can't control
that.
at all.
Yeah, at all. The state changed how, and it's kind of like crazy that the state can do this, because it lessens the car tax, but the money still has to come from somewhere, and where they think, and they didn't, sometimes they offer like stipends or like another revenue source to offset that to towns, and they didn't do that at all. So people will see, if they see an increase in their tax because their property went up, then they'll definitely see a lessening in their car tax.
I just think it's crazy because, like, with our reevaluations, like, you don't really have a choice, a decision in where your reevaluation goes, but you do have a choice as to what kind of car you choose to purchase. So the idea of, trying to construct this budget and say, well, how do you lower your taxes? Well, you can buy an expensive car and you get to pay not as much in it, but if you keep the same house that you've had, now your taxes are going up. My other question to you, I don't know if we're opening it for questions. Yay. Sorry. We're supposed to just listen?
Yeah.
I will just listen.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair enough, but I think at this point.
Reval is a state mandatory thing. They do it every 5 years, and it affects, it's just crazy how the property values went up this year. So And that's because they're selling that much, which is crazy too, so.
So it's gonna be every 5 years, we're
Every 5 years,
reevaluating.
they do it now for the
Do
state,
we always
so,
do
and ours
that?
was a year early, because we weren't really supposed to have it until next year, so ours was a year early because the state changed the scheduling, and we were thrown into the group that was doing it this year, so. Again, we didn't have the choice, so. So we're doing, the Board of Selectmen is having another meeting on Monday to do the meeting call. So in order to do the meeting call, we need your budget numbers before Monday at 3 o'clock, because that's when we're doing our meeting. We have to have a budget, a mill rate set before July 1st. So if the Board of Ed budget's not put together before Monday, we would like to have it for the meeting call so we can do the meeting call, because we need the actual numbers on it. We're gonna anticipate the mill rate to be, what I said, 20.72. And we're having a town meeting because of the way we have to do the announcing and then a certain number of days before the town meeting. And because there's also a holiday thrown in also in that time frame, we're going to do the meeting on June 18th at 7 p.m. And it'll be a town meeting, just like a regular budget town meeting. And we are going to vote at the town meeting because we don't have time to put through for another referendum, because there has to be time from the town meeting to the referendum. And then if it doesn't pass again at a referendum, we'd have to start the process all over again, and there's too much of a gap there. So if we do it at the town meeting and something doesn't pass at the town meeting, we have more time to go back and then do the whole process over again. And if we don't have budgets passed by the end of July, the end of June, we're gonna go through, because we have to put the bills out. It will have the 20.72 as the mill rate. And then if it changes, it comes as, I don't know, we had to ask the lawyer about it. If it ends up being like an over mill rate, then it still stays that, and we have to figure out with the difference to put it towards the taxes the next year or something, so.
So am I clear? If they don't vote yes at the town meeting, no time for a referendum,
Right.
and a higher rate will be set by the state, correct? The
No.
20.
No, they can have another
Oh,
meeting.
one more meeting to get in there?
Yes.
Okay, and then the rate gets set
Yeah.
regardless
Is what it is.
of what,
So yeah, there's 2 opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 town meetings, hopefully the
But
first
for
one.
the Board of Selectmen budget, we cut what we could without drastically
Right.
drastically taking anything away. And we don't want to take away the senior van, because that's not what we want to do for people that actually need it.
I
so.
think that's a great idea, taking some money from the general fund to offset for us.
And I know we've talked about looking into grants for the fire panel. So I think that's hopefully a good opportunity for us, because it's also security related, and there's a lot out there for that, so.
Yeah, so we'll actively try and get something in place for that.
So do you still have an undesignated fund then?
Yeah.
And so, but that can't be used to offset any of the taxes?
No, it is,
or-
that's what we're talking about.
You're taking all of that money?
Oh, not all of
I-
it.
I'm just-
Oh, gosh, not all of it.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's not something that we could use to offset like our board budget with like the price of the buses, something like that? Like, that's
I
not
don't think
offset.
there's enough in there to cover the buses, but I thought we were doing a loan for that.
It is a lease.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just thinking out loud.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
if we're looking to cut one thing, we have the money there, that's all I was thinking.
Yeah, it's a down payment, but
Yeah.
We paid our buses off early in the past.
No, I know.
Well, we only bought 4 this time though,
Right,
right?
yeah, we did the smaller one.
Yeah. Half the fleet.
But if the Board of Ed needs money for buses or anything, that's something, I know you're just getting 4 now, but in the future, it's something that can be added into the capital projects too, so that you don't have to have them all come out of your budget. Like, we can put them as capital projects and put money towards it every year, so that there's at least some money to go
Yeah,
towards
when
it.
it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the plan of
Yeah.
kind of
Going
making some iterations of the purchasing of them, not doing the full fleet all at once, so.
forward. As we go
Just
forward.
managing our budget more flatly for that, so. Okay.
So I don't know if you had any other questions about the process or anything.
We have the dates and kind of what it's gonna look like, and hopefully, hopefully we can get you your information by Monday, for sure.
It's the 18th.
I think it's a Wednesday.
18th, a Wednesday?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a Wednesday.
But yeah, I think hopefully we'll be able to make our decisions tonight and move from there.
Okay, yeah, because we wanted to do it on Tuesday, but we have to, every time we have to do a town meeting or anything that needs to be public notice, we have to do, like, we call it meeting math. Because you have to, there's like certain number of days, like you have to do the meeting call, and then it has to go in the newspaper, because by state statute, we have to pay to put it in the newspaper, which for us is a Norwich Bulletin, even though no one gets the Norwich Bulletin anymore. So we have to pay, we have to pay to put it in the Norwich Bulletin, and the Norwich Bulletin outsources their legals now. So the company that does their legals is in like another state, and their timing of, like, say we need to get it in the paper for Friday in order to have it on Tuesday, because we originally wanted to do Tuesday. So it has to be in the paper on Friday for the days of notice. And the past, we've had to like reschedule meetings in the past because we call to like have it put in, and they're like, oh, well, we can't put it in until like Wednesday. So, because they don't have a set, like, it goes in right away or it goes in the next one or whatever, which has been so frustrating because we've had to like cancel and reschedule because we couldn't get a notice in on time, so.
It's so archaic.
I know, I was
Yeah,
like,
it's like, in the newspaper. like,
Yeah, it has to be in the,
We
and
have
they've been trying, like the legislature, like people have been trying to get a bill to pass to like change it to the website or like something like that so people, so it's noticed, and we can't get it through because the newspapers say they depend on the money for their,
Probably.
for their functioning.
Probably.
Spanish and English.
Yeah.
Has to be in both.
So we didn't want it on Tuesday, but just to be safe, we're scheduling it. And then we were like, just to be safe, we'll schedule it on Thursday. And then we were like looking at the calendar, and it's like Juneteenth. It's a holiday, so we're like,
Doesn't it cost a chunk of change to have another referendum, to have another
it
meeting?
does cost
Like,
Money.
to have another meeting. It's like, it's not, I don't think it really, well, we have to pay the register, we pay the registrars out, they're hourly, but like the selectmen and the finance director and the town clerk were salary, so it doesn't, we'll work crazy hours anyway.
It's like, I think it's like $700 now for them to do the ballots, like to set them up.
Right.
And then we have to pay for the ballots.
You rent
and
the ballot
then-
machine? Do you rent that machine?
No, we
own
just got all new
Yeah.
machines, the
Yeah.
state of Connecticut did.
Okay.
But then you have to pay for 1, 2,
It's a cost of having money.
What is
the
3,
staff?
4, there's like 5 people that have to be there
Yeah.
all day, so, yeah.
Yeah, we think it would come to like between 6,000 to 7,000 for a
Yeah.
referendum.
I don't even know.
And we also don't have, like, some towns that have charters or ordinances that say, like, the budget has to go to referendum. We don't have that. Like, in the past, it's always been at town meetings, but since I've been here, anytime we've had a mill rate increase, I've gone to referendum, because I think that people should have the chance to vote on that, and not everyone can make it to a town meeting. And so that's why it was tricky for this budget, because we're not having a mill rate increase. The mill rate's going down because of the reval. But I was like, it's not fair not to go to referendum for that, because the budgets were going up, and it was gonna, even because the reval like messed everything in the calculations. So that's why we went to referendum this time, even though the mill rate is going down regardless. It was just because residents needed to have the option to vote on it because the budgets were going up.
You folks really put in some work on this, thank you.
Yeah. So we take the budgeting process very seriously, and we know that it, whatever we put in the budget does affect the taxpayers, like we know that. But we also know that we do what we do for the benefit of the town, and that it's things are in there for that reason. So, and we that's how we do our budget. So.
You know, and it's hard to have eyes on all the steps of it. We're at these meetings, from December, January on, working hard to better understand, where we both, lie. I don't know everything in your budget, but we certainly know what's in this piece of paper.
Our budget's very transparent. Like other towns are like not nowhere near as transparent as we are in our budgets. And we also do a lot for less than $3 million. Like if you look at other towns the same size, their government budgets are nowhere near as ours are. Like our town government budget is very low compared to other towns even the same size. So it's and all our staff is state statute staff. The town clerk does the same thing in our town that they do in Groton. They have all the same mandates, the same job duties. The only difference is in Groton, they might have 5 assistants to help with them do it. Here, we have 1 assistant that's like part-time and also assists in other offices too. So it's to save money. So that's how it works.
Thank you very much. It's helpful to hear kind of where you are at, and we'll hopefully bring back the number that you requested once we review it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask you guys a question about special needs students? But can I ask or no? I have a question in regards to like the funding for them. Say like you guys had said a student moved out of town that was going to cost roughly $250,000 in the budget. If the child's in the school system now, say he or she's in the school system and they moved out in February, but we had planned $250,000 for them to be for the year, what do you guys do with the money that wasn't spent because they moved out so early in the year?
We hadn't put it in the budget last year. And this,
Well, I'm saying in general for any special needs, like if you know somebody's going to be here, say that child was in our budget and you guys had put in the budget for this coming year, $250,000, and the child moved out in January or February, so you had half the year left. What do you guys do with the money that wasn't spent because he wasn't here the whole entire year?
We would fill the oil tank, pay off buses, and any other obligations we had or look ahead.
Any
So
over.
Absolutely.
Please, one student was in the budget for the whole year. That student wound up leaving. In the middle of the year, we received a new student that we hadn't budgeted for. So we had 2 students and we had 1 tuition. So what did we do with the extra money? We used it to pay the tuition of the new student who was here, and we had to pay retroactive to November. So what happened was we used the money that we had in the budget for the 1 student and wound up having 2 students here for about a half a year. So that's what happened. There was no extra money.
Wait, stop. Because that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm asking what you would do in a case where if that child left and you didn't have another student come in, what you would do with the extra money that was left for that student. Instead of putting it towards buses or towards fuel or whatever, can't you guys set up a fund where you take that money and set it aside and say, okay, so
No.
No.
It's not allowed because it's a spending.
So we have never in 20 years had, I've been on the board 22 years, it has never happened that one leaves and and somebody else doesn't come in.
But if it did, is there a way to set it up?
No, you're not allowed.
Say, you know what?
Excuse me. So to answer the question, we have an expenditure only budget. We're not allowed to put money aside. Any money that's not used from the budget is returned to the town.
That's right.
Well, I didn't know if you sent it back to the town, if they would put it into
Yeah,
an
we have
account
a-
for special needs students for the following.
No, they
next
can't.
year.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Yep, it's an
But
expenditure
also,
only budget.
In addition to those two
Wait,
students,
wait, yeah,
We're not-
we're saying, just
She's
as an example, we're not speaking of any specific examples, it's a general question.
Suddenly we got
So,
extra money.
yeah, if we
Another
had extra
100,000.
money from a
It's
student
not-
that left.
I've never had extra money. I've always just returned a little bit to the town because we have to wind up using, a school budget is a spending plan. And, and we have students coming in and out, and we might have a student who is in high school in a regular tuition identified needing a $50,000 special ed program in the middle of the year. Now, this budget proposal, has the exact amount for the students of tuition as of today, but we have students come in and we have students leave, so there's going to be a back and forth. We are so lucky because at one time, a few months ago, we had 2 students that were enrolled in our district, and one of them was a court placement, and those combined tuitions were $400,000. But the parents moved, so we didn't have a $200,000 surplus. We had bills that had to be paid for related to the special ed. And in the actual expenditure report that we do, each year, it shows what we had for actual expenditures, but we really do have to use every penny that's in the budget. And again, if we have money at the end of the year, we top off that fuel tank. And if we have to, we can, make sure that we're paying all outstanding balances. So it's a race. We've finished every budget for the last 21 years on time, June 30th, and we've never had to go back to the town for extra money. And that's an accomplishment that is incredible. So that's where that is. But, if you look at individual accounts, students are constantly in and out. So that's what happened with that.
We have bought curriculum as well
I was
at
just
the end
wondering.
of the year.
Things that are next
Okay.
year's bills.
I just didn't know if you could put it in the surplus and say, that's only used for special needs
You
students
can't.
next year.
We can't
We had
say
those,
anything.
yeah, we have those wishes a lot, and then it's expenditure only, we have to give it back, if you have any surplus, or it can't be, repurposed for something specific, yeah.
Our jobs would be a lot harder with different funds we'd have to.
There's no surplus in this budget proposal.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's all we're gonna discuss from guests. I think we'll get our duties cut out for our one budget, our one light item for adjustments to the budget. Okay, well, thank you very much. I know, you guys sorry, the folks in the room didn't get an agenda, so it's a one item. So just so you know, it's to approve adjustments to the budget proposal and adjournment. And our next meeting is Thursday, June 12th at 6 p.m. here. That's a regular meeting.
Are you ready for me?
We are ready.
I need to make a public statement, please. Our student enrollment is declining, and over the years, we have cut back on teachers. Now, for this year, the next year, we had 5 retirements. We are replacing 2 positions. One of them is mine, and the other is making sure that there is somebody in a library, and we've transferred a person, so we hired a person to replace that. This means that we're down 3 teaching positions. Okay, We needed a behavior specialist because we had a special ed child. And if we hired a consultant with some of that money, then we would not have to outplace a student. We hired, and it's in the budget for next year, well, we want to hire a certified nurse assistant, because if we don't have that person here in this building, then we're going to have to put that child in a special ed outplacement. So these are the things that are happening. And then the other thing is, we didn't replace a position because we hired Learn Technology Services. So there's 3 teaching positions that we eliminated, but we bought other services in that might have been a little less expensive. So the declining enrollment has been met over the years by a reduction in force. Now, I had to make sure the public knew that, because I read someplace the population is down and the teachers are increasing. No, the certified teaching staff has been reduced. And we also look at reductions in other parts of the budget for staffing. You know, this is my.
It's not just the certified teachers. We've also decreased the number of paraprofessionals.
Yes, yes, and if we need to cut a paraprofessional or reorganize, we do that. Now, I identified $49,999 in reduction. Sorry, I didn't make 50. But the thing is, how did we do that? Well, the first thing that we did was look at the construction services. We put in 32,000, and the bids for the asbestos replacement and the HVAC systems, we got a good price, plus the town was able to chip in a little bit more money. So we saved $17,000 right there. So that was a chunk of change that worked. Now, we also had a reduction of $20,900 in the maintenance account due to recent maintenance work. And as I get down to the end of the year, we look and we see what we can pay for, but we have almost $90,000 in the budget for the maintenance. Other savings, the third highest savings was $4,417 for the new superintendent. I've been here 19 and a half years. The new superintendent came in at some cost savings. And then there's about $6,000 left. But I will tell you, I didn't want to rip apart, a budget proposal. So I just made strategic cuts throughout the budget to make sure that we could, get to the 49,000. If you want to know, there was like $1,000 for technology equipment. There was $300 for principal supplies. There was $460 for the principal's dues. There was a small reduction in fuel oil, $1,000. Transportation, gasoline, $248. And then food service salaries, $2,000. Now I want to say something. Next week, we're going to review the food services program. But traditionally, we had half of the head cook's salary in the budget matched by half, payment from the collections that we have. And traditionally, we've had a director of food service, a cook's assistant, and a head cook. So for 3 years ago, we got full funding. We served 44,000 meals, and it was fantastic because the state and federal government paid for all breakfasts and lunch. And then they cut that back. We thought that some of that would continue, but there were drastic cutbacks, and we wound up in deficit. But please note, during that time, we had some old, cafeteria equipment we've replaced that over a multi-year approach. And what happened is we have, an increase in the school lunch program, but that's going to be matched by the collections. So the new budget proposal is an increase of 1.35%, or at a cost of $98,524. When Tracy called me, she said, "Can you come up with $50,000 because we're looking at making sure the mill rate is a reasonable increase." Now, remember, you have a spending plan, so things change all the time. A staff member resigns unexpectedly. A special ed student discontinues a program. A new special education child comes in. So, it's just very, very interesting. And we were very fortunate this year that we just happened to have 2 placements that moved out. And I will tell you, one of the other towns right now had to immediately go on essential spending because of the cost of that placement. We were lucky. We were very, very lucky. So I can go through the budget line by line, but this is what happens. And if the board approves it, then we can publicize this. Tracy can work with the first selectman with planning for your next town meeting, which is June 18th at 5 p.m. in the VES gym.
7.
7 p.m.
7.
It's going to be
It's gonna be at 7, but we're gonna tell people to come at 5. We're gonna open the doors at 5 because last time it took forever to check everyone in.
Yeah, that's why we started 25 minutes late. I started at
Okay.
6:30.
Well, Tracy, so I have 5:30 here, but I want to.
5:30. Well, we're gonna put the request in and find out if anything's going on at the school at that time. Ideally, we would like to have doors open around 5 or 5:30 so people can come and get checked in so that we can start on time.
So what
It's
time?
at 7
But it
o'clock,
starts at
7 p.m.
doors
Please
open.
correct your form there because we'll send out a revised budget.
Doors open though at 5:30.
Yeah, 7 o'clock start with a door open at 5:30.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I plead with you to make a motion and to approve this. And then if there's any changes, we go through and we make adjustments with the budget. And every month you get your function object report and it lists the adjustments that are there. And this board has been very, very skilled at making sure that we make adjustments at the appropriate time and end the year with the budget and no surprises, no cost overruns or other things. So that's what's happening.
Well, I think there's, just in terms of an overview, I know we've talked about a lot of these things since we started the budget in January timeframe, and even December, we saw the beginning and the kind of the look in the past of all the budgets, 6 years in the making, and we love that sheet. I think Christopher brings out that sheet every single budget season, and you see it all in arrears. But I do think it's important. I know we list out the priorities and we pretty much understand that, but I don't know if all the townspeople look at this, but line by line, even just list of the priorities that matter, impacting this budget. We do have a part-time superintendent and a part-time director of student services. We have had that for many years. We spent a lot of work this year once Mr. Burrows had announced his retirement, hiring a new superintendent. And fortunately for us, we were able to, they're bound by a Connecticut Teachers Retirement Board formula of how their salaries are created. And it's a very stringent formula. And even we were able to keep to that with our new hiring. So we feel very fiscally responsible in doing that and to keep keep our salaries really, in line for our town and what we can afford. So I think that was prudent that we worked on that this year. Again, we worked on some of the busing needs and determined that 8 buses, although in need, we went with the bare minimum of what we could survive on, which is 4. So I think we did, good work there with the help of the town with the purchase lease. And again, I think this special ed thing is always, if we have a new student, we have to cover their needs. It's a moving target. And I think that's right now we're in a position to cover the students we have and do the best by them to keep them here instead of outsourcing. So.
And usually in my reports, I make a recommendation, and my recommendation would be to approve a budget proposal of approve a budget proposal of $7,399,999, which represents an increase of $98,524, or 1.35% over the current budget of $7,300,175. So this allows the selectmen. Tracy's going to be walking out of here and readjusting her proposal and all of the information for the upcoming meetings. So we're under $100,000 increase, but I think that we can do it with the programs that we've set up and meet the needs of the children. But please, there's no extra tuitions in this budget at all. So if something happens, then I have to go and look at other areas where we might cut back. But I think that the new superintendent and the board will be okay, but it's going to be a little tight next year, okay?
So Tracy, this meets what you need? Okay. Yes, motion?
We have a motion? A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Who is that?
That was Sarah.
Sarah, okay.
She said what?
Aye. Any opposed? None
And I
heard.
think it's going to be interesting next week when we get the school lunch program update and also the transportation update, and that will help with planning for next year.
Okay. All in favor, motion carries. Aye. Motion passes. Okay. We shall send this budget to you tomorrow. Yes. I really hope so too. I mean, we're taking from maintenance and, we can only budget how far our things fall apart, next year. So fingers crossed we stay standing.
And Kate, before we end the meeting, they restored the ECS hold harmless funding.
Sorry.
And Tracy went up and she testified up at the state capitol. She stayed there until midnight. And our state senator and a rep fought for us. And if we had, that would have been $114,000 loss in revenue for next year. And the following year, it was even more. So,
It would have been a mill rate between the 2 years.
so that was so helpful. And I can't thank Tracy and the legislative leadership for that. And the public needs to know about that. That was critical.
Yeah, second that. I'm sorry, Tracy, on the list of things that comes above it, like as one of the higher things.
How can you forget about that?
ECS, yes, no, that was.
That really helped with the mill rate that was proposed, at the town meeting before, had that cut in it. So that just taking that out and putting that revenue back in, changed the mill rate too.
As well, yeah. And it doesn't go unnoticed because it takes everyone. You went up there and Senator Summers did and Representative Lanu went up. So, I mean, it's a lot of time and effort, and they understand, as long as you keep pounding the table, they understand what our small town, we can't take that hit.
It was very frustrating because I sat there, I was the last person in the building to testify.
And I sat there all day, because I got there, it started at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so I sat there through the whole entire thing and heard testimonies, because all the cities were there. They had students from the cities, they had teachers from the cities, were all there saying that the cuts needed to happen because they needed the money, and the towns that were getting cut were the rich towns, and they needed the money from the rich towns. So by the time I testified, I was so frustrated with hearing Voluntown being called a rich town the whole time that I completely changed my speech from what I was planning on talking about. And I was just like, listen, I've sat here all day hearing how rich Voluntown is. And it's a question to me how one state agency can determine the town to be a distressed municipality, yet according to the Department of Education and the way that they do the ECS cuts, we're considered a rich town. Like, it doesn't make sense to me how this is possible. And I think that this should be a proof right there that the way they figure out the formulas is lacking somewhere, because for you to take money away from a distressed municipality when every other thing out there is incentives to distressed municipalities, it just does not make sense to me. And I was like so ticked off by the time I went up there that that's all I talked about, and like everything else I was going to talk about was like gone. So, but there were two ladies left in the room, and because it was a Zoom meeting too, they were running the Zoom meeting, and they were just like, "That was so good, thank you." Now you can go home. I'm like,
Yeah. Well, hopefully that everyone heard, everyone that was supposed to hear heard, and thankfully we benefit from that, from 2 years of holding harmless. So thank you very much.
Pack her bag for next year.
Yep.
This will actually make 8 years that the legislators have held us harmless.
yeah, that's the whole time I've been here too. So.
Okay, great. A motion to adjourn?
Motion, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard?
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Tracy, you can work off those sheets with Julie for the numbers. Yeah, and then I'll redo the introduction.